The desperate call, the crystal spires of New Zelani stretched toward 3 suns, their surfaces gleaming with the soft blue light that had welcomed visitors for over 1,000 years. Ambassador Kira Vash pressed her scaled palm against the observatory window and watched her homeworld die. In the distance, geometric shapes moved across the sky like dark storm clouds, but these were not natural phenomena. They were the Devourers, and they had come to consume everything her people had built. How many more systems have gone silent? She asked without turning from the window. Her aide, a young Zelani named Torex, checked his data tablet with trembling fingers. His usually bright amber scales had faded to a dull gray, a sure sign of extreme stress among their species. 17 in the past week, Ambassador. The Hellion homeworld fell yesterday. The Arvaki colonies in the Beta sector are reporting massive energy drains from their planetary cores. The pattern is always the same. Torex's voice cracked as he spoke. The machines arrive, they begin harvesting, and within days, entire civilizations simply cease to exist. Kira closed her eyes and tried to process the magnitude of what was happening. The Meridian Alliance had stood for 3 centuries as a beacon of cooperation among 7 different species. Their combined knowledge had solved countless problems. Their shared resources had eliminated poverty and war within their territories. They had considered themselves the peak of galactic civilization. They had been wrong. The Devourers had appeared 6 months ago, at the edge of Alliance space. At first, the reports seemed impossible. Mechanical entities the size of moons, moving with purpose, but no apparent intelligence that Alliance scientists could detect. They consumed everything they encountered, not just the materials and energy, but somehow absorbing the very essence of technological advancement itself. Worlds touched by the Devourers became barren rocks, their atmospheres stripped away, their cores drained of heat and motion. What do our fleets report from the Vega engagement? Kira asked, though she already knew the answer from Torex's expression. Total loss, Ambassador. Admiral Vex's command group engaged the lead Devourer over Vega Prime. The battle lasted 14 minutes. The machines adapted to every weapon we used, absorbed our shield technology, and converted our own ships into additional harvesting units. 3,000 vessels and their crews are gone. 3,000 ships. The pride of 7 civilizations, equipped with the finest technology the Alliance could produce, and they had lasted less than 15 minutes against a single Devourer. Kira felt her certainty crumble like sand. Her people had always solved problems through cooperation, through bringing together the best minds of multiple species. But this enemy was beyond their understanding, beyond their capabilities. "Show me the projection models again," she said quietly. Torex activated the Shirix holographic display in the center of the room. The familiar map of Alliance space appeared, showing hundreds of systems connected by trade routes and communication networks. Red markers indicated systems that had fallen to the Devourers, while yellow markers showed systems under immediate threat. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The machines were not attacking randomly. They were systematically working their way toward the core worlds, consuming the Alliance's industrial capacity and military strength with methodical precision. At current rate of expansion, the computer announced in its calm, analytical voice, complete consumption of Meridian Alliance territories will occur in approximately 47 days. 47 days. Less than 2 months for 3 centuries of civilization to be wiped from existence. Kira stared at the projection and felt something she had never experienced before in her role as a diplomat. Complete, absolute helplessness. What about the other galactic powers? She asked, though she already knew this answer too. The hegemony? The Trade Confederacy? The hegemony sealed their borders and activated their defense grid. They're not responding to our requests for aid. The Trade Confederacy has pulled all their assets back to core systems and ceased all operations in contested space. As far as we can determine, every major power is adopting a defensive posture and hoping the devourers will be satisfied with alliance territory. Of course they were. The same political calculation that had governed galactic affairs for millennia. Why risk your own resources to save someone else? Let the alliance fall, study the enemy's tactics, and hopefully develop better defenses before the threat reached their own borders. It was logical, practical, and utterly cold. There is one possibility we haven't explored, Torex said hesitantly. Kira turned to look at him. Speak. The humans. The word hung in the air between them like a foreign concept. Humans. The newest members of galactic civilization, barely 50 years since their first contact with Alliance scouts. They came from a yellow star system on the outer rim, a species that had somehow developed faster than light travel, despite coming from what most considered a primitive world. Earth, they called it. A single planet where evolution had apparently gone mad, creating countless species that spent their entire existence trying to kill each other. Humans are traders and explorers. Torex, they have perhaps 200 ships in their entire fleet, most of them converted merchant vessels. What could they possibly do that our combined armadas could not? But even as she said the words, Kira remembered something odd about humanity's integration into galactic society. They had been remarkably cooperative, almost eager to establish trading relationships and cultural exchanges. But they had also been strangely secretive about certain aspects of their technology and military capabilities. Alliance intelligence had noted discrepancies in human reports about their population, their industrial capacity, their weapons development. Nothing concrete, nothing that seemed threatening, just small inconsistencies that suggested the humans were perhaps more capable than they let on. I've been reviewing the files on human history, Torex continued. Their world produced them through constant warfare. Every advancement they made was in response to some new threat. They are the only species we know of that achieved spaceflight while still actively fighting wars among themselves. Their entire evolutionary path was shaped by violence. Kira considered this. Most Alliance species had evolved on relatively peaceful worlds, developing intelligence as a tool for cooperation and resource management. The idea of a species shaped entirely by conflict was both fascinating and disturbing. But perhaps that was exactly what they needed now. Contact the Earth Embassy, she ordered. Request an immediate meeting with Ambassador Sarah Mitchell. The human embassy on New Zelani was modest compared to the ornate structures maintained by other species. A simple building of glass and steel that somehow managed to seem both welcoming and quietly intimidating. Ambassador Mitchell received Kira in a room decorated with images from Earth, photos that showed vast cities, impossible landscapes, and creatures that looked like they belonged in nightmares rather than on a civilized world. Asterisk Ambassador Vash, Mitchell said, rising from her chair with the fluid grace that all humans seem to possess. I was expecting your call. The news from the outer systems has reached us. Mitchell was typical of her species in many ways. Bipedal, relatively small, compared to most Alliance races, with skin that changed color in response to emotional states and eyes that seemed to analyze everything they looked at. But there was something about her bearing, a quality of contained energy that made Kira think of a predator at rest. Then you understand why I'm here, Kira said. The Alliance is facing extinction. Our fleets cannot stop these machines. Our technology is useless against them. We need help. Mitchell nodded slowly. The Devourers. We've been monitoring the situation. Fascinating technology, actually. Self-replicating, adaptive, designed to consume entire civilizations and convert their resources into additional units. Whoever built them understood both engineering and psychology on a level that most species never achieve. The casual way Mitchell discussed the complete annihilation of Alliance worlds sent a chill down Kira's spine. Can humanity help us? Asterisk. For a long moment, Mitchell was silent. She walked to the window and looked out at the city beyond, where the geometric shapes of the devourers were now visible even in daylight. Ambassador Vash, I need you to understand something about my people. For 50 years, we have lived among you as peaceful traders and explorers. We have shared your festivals, learned your languages, established friendships across dozens of worlds. We have been exactly what you expected us to be. I don't understand. Asterisk. Mitchell turned back to face her. We are not what we appear to be. Humanity learned long ago that survival sometimes requires deception. We have allowed the galaxy to see us as simple merchants and explorers because it was safer for everyone involved. But the situation has now changed. She activated a communication device on her desk. This is Ambassador Mitchell to Terra Command. Authorization code, Revelation 77 Alpha. Request immediate deployment of the Defense Initiative Fleet to Meridian, Alliance territories. Full authorization for Protocol Omega. Asterisk. The response came immediately, in a voice that somehow conveyed both absolute authority and barely contained violence. Acknowledged, Ambassador. Fleet Admiral Stone reports all assets are ready for deployment. Estimated arrival time in Alliance space, 18 hours. Mitchell ended the transmission and looked back at Kira. Ambassador, I need you to prepare your people for what they are about to witness. Humanity is going to help you. We are going to stop the devourers. But after today, nothing in the galaxy will ever be the same. What do you mean? For 50 years, the galaxy has wondered how a species from such a violent world could be so peaceful. The answer is simple. We were never peaceful. We were waiting. As if summoned by her words, the stars above New Zelani began to change. Points of light that had been stable for millennia suddenly shifted, moving in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Space itself seemed to fold and twist, and from the distortions emerged shapes that defied description. Ships, but ships unlike anything in the Alliance databases. Vessels that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their surfaces flowing like liquid metal while maintaining perfect geometric precision. Dear gods, Kira whispered. How many ships? Mitchell smiled, and for the first time, Kira saw the predator beneath the diplomat's mask. All of them. In the space above New Zelani, humanity's true fleet began to take formation. Not hundreds of converted merchant vessels, but thousands of warships that had been built in secret over 5 decades. Ships that incorporated technology the Alliance had never seen, powered by energies that shouldn't exist, crewed by beings who had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to kill efficiently. The Devourers, ancient and adaptive as they were, suddenly found themselves facing something they had never encountered before. Not another civilization to consume, but a species that had been created by 4 billion years of warfare, refined by countless conflicts, and shaped by the simple principle that the universe was trying to kill them, and they intended to kill it back first. Ambassador Mitchell's final transmission went out across all Alliance frequencies, broadcast to every surviving world and ship. This is humanity. We received your call for help. We are coming. But as Kira watched the impossible human fleet arrange itself above her world, she began to understand that they had not called for rescue. They had called for something far more terrible and far more final. They had called for obliteration. The fleet of Obliteration Fleet Admiral Marcus Stone stood on the bridge of the Terran vessel Nemesis and watched the tactical displays with the cold satisfaction of a chess master viewing an inevitable checkmate. Around him, the bridge crew worked with the quiet efficiency that came from decades of preparation for this exact moment. They wore no ceremonial uniforms, carried no flags or banners. They were professionals doing what they had been bred and trained to do. Fleet status report, Stone commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never needed to raise it to be obeyed. "All vessels report ready?" "Admiral," replied Commander Chun from the tactical station. "Stealth fields are disengaged. Dimensional anchors are active. The enemy can see us now." Through the massive viewports of the command deck, Stone could see the human fleet in its full, terrible glory. Ships that had been hidden in pocket dimensions for 50 years now revealed themselves to the galaxy. The smallest vessels were the size of Alliance cruisers, while the dreadnoughts stretched for kilometers through space. But size was not what made them terrifying. It was their design, their movement, their very existence that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about physics. The ships flowed through space like living things, their hulls shifting and adapting in real time. Weapons appeared and disappeared along their surfaces as needed. Some vessels seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, their quantum split forms creating overlapping fields of destruction that no conventional defense could counter. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Torres from the communication station, "we're receiving frantic transmissions from Alliance vessels throughout the system. They're requesting identification and tactical coordination." Stone smiled grimly. "Send standard diplomatic response. Tell them to maintain safe distance and observe. This is a human operation now." On the planet below, Ambassador Kira Vash watched the display screens in the Alliance Command Center with growing amazement and terror. The human fleet had arranged itself in formations that made no tactical sense according to any military doctrine she knew, yet somehow conveyed an impression of absolute, overwhelming power. "How is this possible?" demanded General Thrak of the Orvaki military. His insectoid features twitched with agitation as he studied the sensor readings. "Our intelligence reports indicated humanity possessed fewer than 300 vessels, most of them civilian craft. Our intelligence was wrong," Kira said quietly. She was beginning to understand the full scope of humanity's deception. For 50 years, they had allowed the galaxy to see exactly what they wanted to be seen. Every trade mission, every cultural exchange, every diplomatic meeting had been carefully orchestrated to present humanity as peaceful, limited, harmless. "They've been lying to us since first contact. But why?" asked Dr. Yalan of the Hellion Research Council. "What did they gain from appearing weak?" Asterisk, before anyone could answer, the Devourers responded to the human presence. The massive machines that had been methodically consuming the outer rim of the system suddenly changed course, their geometric forms shifting into attack configurations. Sensors detected massive energy buildups as the ancient weapons prepared to engage this new threat. "Admiral Stone," came Ambassador Mitchell's voice over the communication system, "the Alliance Command Center is requesting tactical coordination. Should I inform them of our battle plan?" Stone's response was broadcast across all frequencies, ensuring every Alliance vessel could hear it. "Tell them there is no battle plan. There is only extermination." The first Devourer to engage was the size of a small moon, its surface covered with the characteristic hexagonal patterns that marked its kind. It had consumed 17 Alliance worlds and absorbed the technology of countless civilizations. Its weapons were a hybrid of every defensive system it had encountered, adapted and improved through quantum analysis. When it fired, the beam should have vaporized everything in a cone, stretching halfway across the system. Instead, the beam simply stopped existing 3 kilometers from the nearest human ship. Not blocked, not deflected, but erased from reality as if it had never been fired at all. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Yalan. "Energy cannot simply cease to exist." But the humans were just beginning their demonstration. The lead vessel, identified as the Nemesis, moved toward the Devourer with deliberate slowness. As it approached, the ancient machine tried every weapon in its arsenal. Particle beams, gravity weapons, reality distortion fields, quantum disruptors. Each attack either disappeared entirely or passed through the human ship as if it existed in a different dimension. There, phasing in and out of normal space-time, General Thrak observed, his professional military mind trying to process what he was seeing. But the energy requirements for that should be impossible for a vessel that size. The Nemesis came to a stop directly in front of the Devourer. For a moment, both vessels hung motionless in space, the ancient machine and the human warship studying each other across the void. Then something happened that made every Alliance observer question their understanding of reality itself. Human ship extended what could only be described as hands. Massive appendages of pure energy reached out and simply took hold of the Devourer. Not grappled with it, not engaged it in combat, but picked it up like a child's toy. The machine that had consumed worlds struggled in the grip of forces it could not understand or adapt to. Begin dissection protocol. Stone commanded calmly. What followed was not a battle, but a methodical dismantling. The human ship began taking the Devourer apart piece by piece, its energy hands moving with surgical precision. Each component was examined, analyzed, and either absorbed into the human vessel or cast aside as worthless. The process was conducted with the same casual efficiency a scientist might use to examine an interesting insect. By the gods, breathed Ambassador Vash, they're not just destroying it, they're learning from it. The other Devourers in the system recognized the threat and converged on the human fleet with desperate urgency. Hundreds of the massive machines, each one capable of consuming a civilization, moved to attack with every weapon they possessed. The galaxy was about to witness the largest space battle in recorded history. It lasted 6 minutes. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship perfectly coordinated with every other. When Devourers attacked from one direction, human vessels appeared behind them from folded space. When the machines tried to adapt to human weapons, the weapons changed faster than adaptation was possible. When the ancient entities attempted to convert human technology to their own use, they found that human technology existed in dimensions their quantum minds could not access. But it was not just the technology that horrified the Alliance observers. It was the tactics. Where Alliance fleets had tried to minimize casualties and preserve their enemies for study, the humans showed no such restraint. Every attack was designed for complete annihilation. When a Devourer was damaged, human ships ensured it could never repair itself. When one was disabled, they made certain it could never be reactivated. Nothing was left to chance. Nothing was left alive. They fight like the universe owes them something. General Thrak observed with a mixture of admiration and fear. Every move is calculated for maximum destruction. Commander Chan reported from the Nemesis. Admiral, we have successfully captured core processing units from 12 Devourer variants. Analysis indicates their base programming includes rapid adaptation protocols and resource conversion matrices. Recommendation: complete elimination of all units to prevent future replication. Approved. Begin sterilization sequence. What happened next defied every law of physics the Alliance understood. The human ships opened fire, not with conventional weapons, but with forces that attacked the fundamental structure of matter itself. Devourers simply ceased to exist, not destroyed by explosions or vaporized by heat, but unmade at the quantum level. Their constituent atoms were scattered across multiple dimensions, ensuring they could never reform or be reconstructed. The last Devourer in the system attempted a desperate final gambit. It began converting itself into pure energy, preparing to detonate with the force of a supernova. The explosion would sterilize every planet in the system, but it would also ensure that some part of its pattern survived to seed new Devourers elsewhere. The human response was immediate and absolute. Ships positioned themselves around the converting machine and activated what Alliance sensors could only identify as a contained singularity. Not a black hole, but something far more sophisticated. A controlled collapse of space-time that created a bubble of non-existence around the devourer. When the ancient machine detonated, its energy had nowhere to go. The explosion happened in a pocket of reality that was disconnected from the rest of the universe. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the battle was over. The human fleet reformed into their original positions, their hulls already beginning to shift back to less aggressive configurations. The system that had been home to hundreds of devourers was now empty, except for the fading traces of quantum disruption. "Devourer units eliminated," Commander Chun reported. "System clear. No traces remain." Admiral Stone nodded with satisfaction. "Begin Phase 2. Locate Devourer production facilities." Ambassador Vash felt her blood turn cold. "Production facilities?" The answer came from Ambassador Mitchell's voice over the communication system. "The machines you encountered were not the source of the threat, Ambassador. They were merely scouts. Our analysis indicates they were produced by automated factories hidden in dark matter structures throughout this galaxy. Factories that have been building devourers for millennia, waiting for the right moment to launch a full-scale harvest." "How many factories?" Kira asked, though she dreaded the answer. "Approximately 40,000, distributed across 12 galaxy clusters. 40,000 factories, each one potentially capable of producing millions of devourers." The scope of the threat was beyond anything the Alliance had imagined, and the humans spoke of it like they were planning a routine industrial cleanup operation. "It will take some time to locate and eliminate all production sites." Stone's voice continued across the communication channel. "We estimate 18 months for complete sterilization. During this time, we recommend all Alliance species maintain minimal space operations and focus on defensive preparations." 18 months, whispered Dr. Yalan. "They plan to hunt down and destroy 40,000 hidden factories in 18 months, as if to demonstrate that this was not idle boasting." The human fleet began to disperse. But instead of departing through normal hyperspace jumps, the ships simply faded from existence, moving through dimensions that conventional sensors could not track. Within minutes, the massive armada had vanished, leaving only the Nemesis and a small escort group. "The galaxy is now under Terran protection," Ambassador Mitchell announced. "We will eliminate the Devourer threat completely. We will also be conducting a review of galactic defensive capabilities to ensure this situation does not recur. We suggest all species use this time to consider their future relationship with humanity." The implications were clear to everyone listening. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted overnight. Humanity had revealed itself not as peaceful traders, but as the most advanced military force in known space. They had technology that defied physics, tactics that prioritized annihilation over victory, and the cold efficiency to hunt down and destroy threats across multiple galaxies. As the communication ended, Kira stared out at the stars and tried to process what she had witnessed. The Alliance had called Earth for rescue, expecting perhaps a few hundred ships and moral support. What had arrived was a fleet of obliteration, commanded by beings who had spent 4 billion years learning to be the perfect killers. "What have we done?" she whispered. General Thrak, professional soldier that he was, understood better than most. "We have survived," he said simply. "But we have also learned that humanity was never our ally. They were our guardian. And guardians, by their very nature, decide who lives and who dies." In the months that followed, reports would filter back from across the galaxy. Human fleets appearing in systems where no human had ever been seen, systematically destroying hidden Devourer facilities with the same methodical efficiency they had shown at New Zelani. Ancient machines that had slumbered for millennia were found and eliminated. Factory complexes hidden in asteroid belts, dark matter clouds, and parallel dimensions were located and sterilized. True to their word, the humans completed their task in exactly 18 months. When it was done, They had eliminated not just the devourer threat, but every trace of the civilization that had created them. An entire species that had once spanned multiple galaxies was erased from existence so completely that only the humans remembered they had ever lived. The galaxy was safe. But safety had come at a price that few species truly understood until it was too late to change their minds. Humanity had answered their call for help, but in doing so, they had revealed themselves as something far more terrifying than any machine threat. They were the species that evolution created when it wanted to build the perfect survivors. And now, whether the galaxy wanted it or not, they were in charge.